you want to spend 20 minutes banter with me?
Might be better than the town.
Well, then you give me 20 extra minutes to prep against the app, so sure, let's do that.
Justin's like, I'll take it out of your speech time, and I'll agree to it.
Yeah.
20 minutes of banter. How much speech time do you have left after that?
Just set framework to filibuster and just keep talking to the circle ballot.
That's right.
And then the counter framework's gonna be whoever physically can knock out the other. Anyway.
I have like five 5-hour energy drinks in my bag. Try me.
No, counter framework is Justin's closer to the door than you. He can prevent you from leaving and take all your stuff, so therefore, yeah. The rules, maybe they're good.
And I'll just take the ballot, circle it, and say Kevin wanted me to take it to tab for him.
I know. I might beat you with my umbrella in that event, so.
That's a debate.
Because if we're getting rid of the rules.
Yeah. Getting rid of the rules, we're just gonna steal everything. Anyway, let's do this.
Inherent to the United States and the command attacking Venezuela through a vicious operation called Venezuela Freedom 2. Bernardo 16, recently document from the American South Command was released in which 12 steps for destabilizing and bringing about an abrupt end to Nicolas Maduro's government are laid out. Venezuela Freedom 2 is a proposal that using violent means conditions are created which lead to an eventual change in the government. As part of the overall strategy, the Southern Command is designed to control Latin America and the Caribbean. In the Caribbean, the report also makes the reference to the fall of the international oil price, which insists will force Maduro government to push social welfare programs on whole political analysis. Carlos and Zier's went on, but went on to point out it was clear this began some time ago and is being carried out now in the form of strategy centered on bullying and attempting to overthrow Maduro's government. If you look at the fundamental points, these are, it would appear the use of strategy justify the development of hostile policy on the part of the opposition. This is already taking place and everything points toward a violent end. They are preparing the stage for an outcome using the same thing that is used in 2002 when they carried out the coup d'etat against Chavez. Enlarging upon these texts proposes creating precarious climate which may combine civil unrest with the carefully measured use of armed violence, using with the force of the strategy of seizing suffocate the National Assembly of Venezuela Parliament as a way of stifling the government's ability to govern, maintaining the offensive campaign and propaganda of creating climate distrust, inciting fear, and bringing about an ungovernable situation, exploiting particular issues such as shortage of water, food, and electricity. Thus the plan. Through executive order, President Obama will permanently end Operation Freedom Venezuela. Funding and enforcement are through normal means. I accept that clarifying process. Solvency. There are no benefits to the United States overthrowing governments. It's just the United States trying to look powerful to increase its hedge, but in the end, it just ends up causing massive poverty and more government corruption. Davis 14. The most U.S. countries led to severe repression, disappearance, execution, torture, corruption, extreme poverty, inequality, and prolonged setbacks on the democratic aspirations of the people in the countries affected. The disquieting reality of the world we live in is that American efforts to destroy democracy, even as it pretends to champion it, have left the world less peaceful, less just, less hopeful. The U.S. has exercised a quite clinical manipulation of power while masquerading as a force of universal good. There's a strong correlation between the extent of U.S. involvement and the level of violence. U.S. coups follow a model that has hardly changed between 1953 and the latest coup. This model is in 3 stages. First, creating and strengthening opposition forces in the early stages of U.S. plans for regime change. There's little difference between the methods used to achieve at the ballot box or an interconstitutional coup. Post-World War II Italy's case in point, the U.S. threat to cut off the aid of the war-ravaged country where Allied bombing had killed 50,000 civilians and left much of the country in ruins. The NPDP was reduced to a combined of 40% of the votes in 1946 and 31% in 1948, leaving Italy in the hands of increasingly corrupt U.S.-backed coalitions for the next 46 years. In Ukraine, the U.S. worked since independence in 1991 to promote Western party independence, but the Western-backed governments became just as corrupt and unpopular as the previous ones. Ukraine, violent street demonstrations in November 2013. The European Union President Yanukovych with a 1,500-page free trade agreement similar to NAFTA, the TPP. Yanukovych rejected the EU agreement. This was a signal for pro-Western and right-wing groups in the Kyiv. In right-wing groups in Kyiv take the streets in Tehran in 1953. The CIA spent millions of dollars to hire gangsters to strip the stage increasingly violent demonstrations until the rebel army units were fighting in the streets of Tehran and killed at least 300 people were killed. In Haiti, 2004, 200 U.S. Special Forces were trained, 600 militiamen at a training camp across the border in the Dominican Republic. These forces then invaded northern Haiti and spread violence and chaos across the country, set the stage for the overthrow of President Aristide. Third, the coup d'etat, the creation and grooming of opposition forces and spread of violence in the streets are deliberate strategies to create a state of emergency as a pretext for removing an elected or constitutional government and seizing power. In Iran, faced with hundreds of people being killed in the streets, Mohammed Zahedi resigned at the end of bloodshed. In Chile, General Pinchot launched airstrikes at the presidential palace in Haiti in 2004. U.S. forces landed to remove Paradise and occupy the country. About half of all U.S. coups have failed, and success is never guaranteed. There's always people of the hard country who pay the price for the violence, chaos, poverty, and instability. Direct U.S. military intervention in Ukraine was not an option before the coup, but now the coup itself. I'm gonna cut there. Advantage 1 is the U.S. it has been and still is imperialistic. The Lucas 13, the U.S. can easily attack any nation in the world. In effect, the U.S. occupies most, if not all, of the world. Now, even if it does not have a basis on the nation, the U.S. is an empire. In about the last 60 years, the U.S. has been responsible for the death of between 20 and 30 million people. Second, hedge one is the excuse for imperialistic acts binary generate the U.S. economic dominance and military might. This calls on two dialogues of other and configuring colonial hierarchies of knowledge and race. Oh, that was TF 12, by the way, I don't think it's a thing. Latin America, the most obvious binary which contributes to U.S. dominance is the native settler binary. The USA was constructed through a process of settler people and their worldviews assert over Native American societies to form territorial, economic, and epistemological conquest characterized by massacres, displacement, and deception, which asserted the settlers' military and epistemological dominance. The U.S.'s career as global agent, economic power, normative, and keeper of the peace society, which is framed by the dynamics of race and colonialism. Understanding the U.S. powerful is demands that you replenish with epistemological and racial dimensions. Third, U.S. imperialism is the greatest threat of nuclear war. London 16. Unchallenged U.S. global dominance risks of nuclear war, while with America's potential catastrophic imperial agenda, different Asia-Pacific future 1 in 10 America takes to a different Asia-Pacific future 1 in 10 dominated by enforcing Washington rules. China's ambassador accused Washington device of escalating regional tensions, warning American imperial agenda risks the very militarization we always avoid stereotypical use thinking, hedge on maintain a global era mindset. Russia's increasingly encroaching on its land and sea borders, risk eventual nuclear war. America's imperial agenda, the greatest threat to world peace. Fourth, imperialist rhetoric and development of modernity justifies dispositionality, human lives are rendered expendable, and the unending drive for commodity production. Below 5. What happens must do with development capitalism. History legitimizes telling of stories, simultaneously silencing others. American proposed capitalism, massive appropriation of land, exploitation of labor, slave trade came together in a common goal to replace the commodities of the global market and the dramatic consequences of expendability of human life, the pursuit of commodity production and capital accumulation, radical changes in the land appropriation, labor exploitation, massive commodity production were conceived in the rhetoric of modernity as advancement of humanity, consequences were the devaluation of human life and the natural basis of human expendability. That's all.
Alright. Where exactly did you cut the last card?
Wherever my computer decided to froze and skip a lot. Direct U.S. military intervention.
I haven't started cross-ex because I want to know where he this before
I said, hey, direct U.S. military intervention in Ukraine was not an option before the coup, then it switched, so I right after that.
Okay, so you didn't read the Mignolo 5 evidence?
No, I did. I got all the way through the hegemon, through the advantage. It's only the first advantage though.
Okay, cool.
The other one is just that one, version 2 or something.
Sure.
It's just the solvency card act, but
Okay.
now the coup itself being stabilized the country.
Alright. You ready for cross?
Yep.
Okay. Alright, so what the heck is this this Venezuela freedom?
So the United States is known for going in and overthrowing governments. It says all the time. You can look at the imperialists, the examples in the evidence. Operation Freedom Venezuela is just another one of those. Right now, they're trying to overthrow the government and replace their own government that actually likes them. However, as for the solvency card, this never actually works out.
Sure, okay, so let's talk about why executive order.
Because an executive order is actually something that's public, it's most public, it's how Venezuela sees it as well.
Okay, so how is an executive order more public than a congressional bill that has to be debated and introduced?
Well, the point of this is to get basically as much news on it as possible. Generally, executive orders get more in especially in media, and that's the
How
point.
many other executive orders can you name? All right, moving on. On the solvency argument, so particularly have these governments that the U.S. overthrown, has there ever been a time where they, were abusing or killing their citizens?
I mean, if you look at Italy, post-World War II, no, they weren't really...
Sure, but in Latin America specifically.
I mean, if you look at it, the reason all this is happening is actually because of U.S. propaganda to make it look that way.
So the U.S. causes these Latin American nations to kill their poor.
Specifically in Venezuela right now.
Sure. Where in your solvency evidence you specifically mentioned Venezuela? That's
it was at the end that I think it. But the solvency is basically saying the U.S. overthrowing government is really bad.
Cool. All right. And on Advantage 1, so how is the U.S. hedge uniquely imperialistic in Latin America specifically?
I mean, one, they're trying to overthrow a government.
Okay, that's the debatable portion. So your Taylor 12 evidence, explain to me how that functions within, how do you uniquely solve for all of this hedge in Latin America?
So basically what's going to happen is Venezuela is specifically key because it's the biggest one that's going on right now. It's one of the largest humanitarian crises, or international crises that are going on right now.
Okay.
But you want me to hear yourself?
Yeah.
But so basically, that's why this is so huge. This is the base example by the United States coming out and saying they're going to stop doing this. It's a sign they're going to stop.
Cool. And on your Lindman 16 evidence, Why does an MBA say that U.S. imperialism is a threat of nuclear war? Like, how does that even function other than just some guy talking out of his butt?
What's the MBA? Give me a second. I'm trying to find out. What's the MBA?
The Lindman 16 evidence literally says he's an MBA from the Wharton School of Business. Like, how does he explain to me what he knows about nuclear war and U.S. imperialism? I'm sure he's qualified to talk about finance, but like.
When he got from Harvard University, as it says, he's writing on world and national issues since 2005. So even at the point where you don't have, where you have some kind of college degree and you've been researching for more than 10 years, odds are you're going to know a thing or two.
Sorry, so any college degree qualifies you to talk about nuclear war?
No, but researching it for 10 years.
My undergrad, fine, then I'll do my research in underwater basketball. All right, we're going to take some prep. Starting prep. Stop the prep with 237 left. Is it cool if I just email you this?
Yeah. I need to get over here. That's awesome. I'm tired.
I already have your email.
CODY P15.
CODI?
CODY.
Y?
P15.
Oh, just Cody P?
Yeah, 1500@gmail.com.
Kevin, do you want it on the chain?
I'm good.
Okay. The order's going to be 2 off, and then case. I just sent the doc to you.
It takes a little bit, so. Give me a second, there it is. Cool.
Everyone ready?
Yep.
Alright. First going to be the T1 is the interpretation DOD from 2002. Substantial reduction defined as increase 50% or more in the total funding of quantities. 2 is the definition of South Common Rules from 2016. Counter-terrorism, organized crime, terrorism, supporting disaster response operations, substance, other defense capabilities, emphasizing social human rights, foundation, cornerstone of everything we do. 3 is my interpretation of the affirmative must reduce 50% or more in the total roles of the command. 4 is violation. The affirmative only reduces the plan of Venezuela freedom. The South comes still to the rules. 5 are standards. 8 is limits. Checks and substantial key to limit affirmatives take minor action limits that help subject of education. We avoid racing the bottom for the most obscure out these precision. This isn't just another generic substantial team. My definition of the Department of Defense guidebook. This is key to best real world education. My interpretation is the debate around actual government procedures. 6 of the voters. 8 is fairness in education. Fairness internally into education without ensuring a fair debate. We cannot create an equal space for discourse which limits the pedagogical value discussion we have around B is voted first. NFL rules makes topicality stock issue. Topicality is a prior question. Affirmative impacts and thus must be evaluated for any other position. Second is going to be the DA. 1 is the uniqueness. Iran is aiming to increase their influence in Latin America. Berman 9-2 in the wake of last year's nuclear uncertainty in Latin America is entering a new phase of Tehran has turned to release some of its regions into the regions more significant economic players such as Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, Iran is still seeking to shore up anti-American access in the United States geopolitical backyard on the link level. Without U.S. involvement in Latin America, specifically Venezuela, Iran will expand their influence on Chico and 825 without a lean outside powder broke breakdown. Iran's arrest is no reason to delay its offensive description to purposes. One element with Iran's renowned in Latin American spread of terrorism, terror support, and ideologies. Iran use these rogue regimes to certain remaining sanctions undermine U.S. interests and expand the drug trafficking network that helps finance illicit activities. Tehran's classic playbook is to use cultural centers, new embassies, consulates, or cooperative agreements on various areas to act as a facade expanding Iran's radical extremist network on the internal league. 1 1, increased Iran involvement allows them to access uranium. Al-Shaka al-Sharwa, 930. Iran's interest in countries abroad is not recent, but its newest pursuit in nuclear manufacturers over the years preceding the sudden highly controversial Iran. Iran received countless criticism and accusations for hunting down uranium in South America under privilege in the areas of nuclear management established countries like Bolivia and Venezuela will trade off uranium to the Tehran regime in exchange for training and establishing centers dedicated to nuclear empowerment. 2 is that more uranium lets Iran build nuclear arms even after the deal. Misstalled 15. Even if Iran will fully comply with all the restrictions of JCPOA, the deal not prevented nuclear Iran indefinitely. Although a country is not known as a nuclear power to conduct successful test definition, nuclear device countries should have nuclear weapons capability and moment is capable of producing even enough visual material for a weapon. Assuming that Iran's enriched uranium stockpile remains constant in 300 kilograms, you can calculate that to be able to break down in 4 weeks or left Iran with an enrichment and capability equal to 13 times more higher centrifuges than it has now. But what if Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium were to grow? Taking a more conservative estimate, we can calculate that starting with a sufficient stockpile of 3.5% of enriched uranium, about 1,800 kilograms, Iran would need roughly 300,000 centrifuges to be able to break out in 4 weeks or less. And on the impact, Iran causes a runaway prolific nuclear war. Lindsay and Take 10. Containing nuclear Iran would not be easy. Nuclear Iran may choose to flex its muscles and test U.S. resolving under the best circumstances. The opaque nature of decision-making to wrong to complicate Washington's efforts to deter Iran's nuclear program as emerged to define elements national identity. Iran's entry in the nuclear club would encourage it to be more aggressive. The nightmare scenario unreached by Iran's nuclearization is easy sketch. Israel will go on a hair trigger will ready to launch a nuclear weapons at a moment's notice, putting both countries away from annihilation. Egypt and Saudi Arabia and Turkey would scramble to join the nuclear club. The NPT would collapse and unleash a wave of nuclear proliferation around the globe. And the second impact card, any use of nuclear bombs causes extinction. Star in 15. War fought with 20th century strategic nuclear weapons would be more than a great catastrophe to human history. If we allowed to happen, such a war would be a mass extinction event that ends human history. The environmental consequences of the nuclear would attack the ecological footprint of systems of life at every level, creating ice age weather conditions will last for decades. Research predicts that virtually any nuclear war, even fought with even a fraction of the operation to deploy nuclear arsenals, will leave the Earth virtually uninhabitable. Let's go to case. First is going to be a rhetorical turn. Vote my opponent down because of the use of the F word is an independent reason to vote affirmative. It normalizes sexual violence against women, makes a culture of domination inevitable. This is going to be Schweier 9. Our language constructs and maintains male aggression, female passivity, powers fluid, as though the language described what is happening because shift except of course our sex ed textbooks and elsewhere the shift never happens. We do a tremendous disservice to boys and girls, so I refuse to use language honors the reality of women's sexual agencies. We set up one young women to be afraid, we set up young women to think of women's bodies as passive receptacles. Changing our language is a promising start. At first I dispel the urban legends as an acronym. I then asked, what age young people in English speaking culture first encounter the word? Most of my students had heard the word by the age of 5 or 6. Long before most kids in our culture become sexually active, the most common slang word in American medium has knit together two things in their consciousness: sex and rage. If fucking is the most common slang term for it, of course, then fuck you or fuck off is the most common terms to express contempt or rage, whereas the end result a culture that is difficulty distinguishing sexual violence from war, which heartbreak and hypersensitive women will be victims of rape. It's not impossible to suggest, at least in part, the language itself normalizes sexual violence. Rage and lust are both normal human experiences. We will get angry, or we will be sexually or want to be over and over again over the course of our lives, but we have a responsibility to make a clear and bright line between the language of sexual desire and the language of contempt and indignation. Words matter. We forget the power to paint a picture in mind how the world ought to be. Next. Going to be on the solvency level. 1 is no solvency. The card doesn't uniquely mention Venezuela. Means that it's probably never going to be able to solve. 2 is that Congress is better than an executive order. You couldn't even name an executive order in cross-ex. Probably means they don't act in the perception link that they articulate in cross-ex. Means not going to be able to solve. But term executive orders increase presidential power. Hearst in 99. Executive orders may be used to increase presidential authority, thus enable the president to legislate. The possibility of corruption within his realm cannot be overstated. And B, high presidential powers lead to unilateral action, bad foreign policy, and neglect of domestic issues. Davidson in 05. After September 11, 2001, the United States administration announced a global war on terrorism that knows no border time limits along the effects of the major scares affecting the international community. The harmful effect of retail terrorism seems trivial to the whole cell. Terrorism driven by state child mortality, civil wars, extreme poverty, literacy, environmental degradation. Cut the card there. The next argument under this is going to be you can skip the Sachs and the Khalees cards. Not going to read those, but the analysis is like this is going to set a precedent that will allow Donald Trump to further engage in more executive orders, which is going to allow him to do things like build a wall and going to be uniquely bad. This is going to be impacted by the Kissinger 12 card that leads to tyranny. With the unearthing of nor we improved executive orders, we come to realize it's been an ideological strategy designed long before the present U.S. administration. We've seen the death throes of the U.S. Constitution and symbols of democracy that may initially existed with the founding fathers. Seem number of years become the epitome of a totalitarian rule. Cut card here. Skip the next card. Next argument is not unique and no link on the advantage. Latin Americans want the U.S. to engage in Latin America. This post states every card and no links. If we don't engage in Latin America, the U.S. is militaristic and evil. We go because Latin Americans ask Americans quarterly 16. Hitler relationship with Mexico fixed the war on drugs, help us leave the fourth industrial revolution. We ask Latin Americans if you can tell the next president of the United States anything, what would it be? Authors included President Attorney General, indigenous activists, CEOs, expert on the region, everyday readers, taken together provide a snapshot of diverse and rapid change of region of 540 million people. Cut the card there. Second is the countries where we have intervened the most love the U.S. disproves all imperialism and impacts the economists. March 29th, given the dozens of times the United States is in troop in Latin America, you may assume the region is consumed with resentment against the country. In fact, the Latin Americans are well exposed to the U.S. The most recent survey found 65% of respondents have a good or very good opinion of the United States. The country seemed to have the most case for Grievance-ville. The least agree with the card here. Next, third, the internal link scenario. Internal link is super broad. If the one engagement is in Latin Americans imperialism, they solve for anyone they don't see internal link as Euro U.S. internal imperialist violence still goes unchecked as U.S. federal government policy exists post-plan. U.S. will engage in Latin America before Southcom exists. Problem means that there's these evil murdering imperialists who still being engaged in Latin America after Southcom no longer exists. But for my evidence, because the status quo U.S. interim is down listening to Latin American engagement because they ask me to squad solves internally. But for turn, even if you give them risk of their impact, the U.S. leadership is uniquely solving emerging threats that solves all their imperialism. Offense, CAC 14. Unbalanced U.S. has been a positive for the world, especially unipolar power and hegemonic transition periods have been historically the most disabling in areas of history. America's preponderance of powers prevented great power war, climate change, health independence, organized crime, terror, global financial crisis, and the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. Cut the card at the mass destruction. You can get rid of the Hansen evidence. And did you catch all the other cards that I omitted?
I did.
Okay, you can delete the Howell evidence, the subpoint B Doyle 4 evidence, the Khalizad evidence, and the Sox 3 evidence. All right.
Give me a second. So, let's talk about some now. Starting this topicality.
Yep.
You say that we have to decrease all of Southern Command's role by 50%.
Yep.
Basically, so what if we just reduced it, just all of Southern Command's role in 50%?
What do you mean?
Just all of Southern Command's role by 50%?
Yeah, or you can reduce like 2 of the roles. You can reduce all of them by like 25%, would equal a total of 50. You could reduce 2
All
of them by half.
would equal 50?
You could get rid of 2 of them.
Alright, cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of number of games we can play with it. I give you some flexibility.
So, you say you're, alright, cool. On your disadvantage, you say that Iran where's Iran going to trade in Latin America for this uranium?
My Ashaq al-Aswat card literally indicates that Venezuela will give them uranium.
So Venezuela will give them uranium because they don't like the United States, right?
No. Well, the only reason, that's the scenario is that the only reason they don't do that is because U.S. checks their involvement. Literally, the Cohen card says without a leading outside power to put a brake on Iran,
Cool.
they're going to do whatever they want.
So, what's stopping Iran from trading with other countries?
I mean, the analysis is that the U.S. engaging in Latin America. I mean, I'm specifically articulating the link to your plan, but specifically the card indicts all of Latin America as the U.S. presence there checks that. So, but specifically in Venezuela, like as your plan affects, it's going to specifically check there, but it also checks the rest of Latin America. So, I mean, I guess like if you want to read evidence that says you're going to go get uranium from like Malaysia or something.
Also, your evidence states that like the Iranian deal isn't going to last. It's not going to last forever, right? Doesn't that mean like SCLO is going to cause this anyways?
Yeah, but your plan accelerates it.
Cool.
And the card literally says what happens if Iraq gets more of Iran.
Cool, thank you. Where am I now? And the small card. So next, you go on and so you say executive orders increase presidential powers and it's going to increase Trump's power?
Yeah, you set a precedent to let Trump do whatever he wants.
Cool.
When you pass more executive orders.
And Trump doing whatever he wants leads to global nuclear war?
No, my analysis is that it leads to like totalitarian and the destruction of democracy. I impact that out to like oppressive tyranny using the Kissinger 92 evidence.
And tyranny and lack of democracy leads to worldwide war. Would you say overthrowing a government is lack of democracy? Just like overthrow the government for your own like greedy purposes?
I mean, that's an argument you can make. I would say it's probably worse when that government gets to have nuclear weapons and wants to build a wall.
Oh, cool. I just want to read that. Starting grab. Cool. I think I'm ready.
Kendall said have fun.
Oh yeah, my texter set up on that in that too.
And James gave you a thumbs up. You're welcome.
I mean, I have it on both of them. Okay, I have 6 minutes, right?
Yeah. Do you got any docs you gotta share?
Probably not.
No cards?
I know.
Alright. Okay.
Let's first start with the top card.
I wasn't ready. You didn't even ask. Imperialist?
Edge is good, remember?
Oh, Kevin. What's the order? TDA case?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. What would be next to know?
No, I'm just gonna go randomly. Alright. Starting on the interpretation first on this scene, it says potential reduction is decreased in 50% or more in total quantity of funding. My first argumentation on this is that my first argumentation on this is we're decreasing all engagement in Latin America by more than 50% because the only thing that's going on in there is Operation Freedom Venezuela. Cool. Next, on the definition of Southcom's roles, first is an impossible to meet interpretation because these roles do not include the Operation Freedom Venezuela. At that point, you know it's not a good card because when he concedes the fact that Southcom is doing Operation Freedom Venezuela, we know it's part of their role. Either that or it's a hidden operation, which is another reason why we should end it because having hidden operations is probably a reason why the United States is trying to be hella imperialistic and overthrow all these governments that they're trying to do, which is another thing back in the case. Next, argumentation B, we actually meet the Southcom role because we are ending everything that's happening in Venezuela. If we are meeting this goal in Venezuela. At that point, we do meet it. So yeah, I'm reducing 50% or more of the total role of the Southern Command in Venezuela. On the violation, he says that we only reduce we only reduce that one thing. Yeah, cool. That one thing is like everything in Venezuela. On the first is limits. My first orientation on turn is that having a 50% having a 50% argument group, you actually over limit it, just making some AFs that should be topical, not topical. This destroys critical thinking because you're basically saying because I have this card that's over 50%, you're like you shouldn't be in because like yeah. On the precision, you say, on the precision, my first argumentation is like, obviously it's not a good enough definition if you're not looking at these other operations that they're doing that the role isn't even on there. At that point, it's not a good definition. On to the voters, first is fairness education. My argumentation would be education and acting internally with the fairness because the role is inherently unfair, and the best way to do that is to increase your education. At that point where topicality actually destroys education, you should be preparing us on the topicality because like we should be talking about the case instead. On to the, he says, vote for because the NFA deal rules of stock as talk issue, I am totally topical, like at the point where I'm reducing by more than 50%. On to the disadvantage. My first argumentation is like non-unique. My first argumentation is non-unique. With Trump becoming president with his isolationism stance, he's not really going to care what Iran does. Second, because Trump doesn't really like the Iran deal, he's willing to end it, meaning the impacts are going to happen anyways. Second, without U.S. involvement in Latin America, he says that the Latin America will increase their influence. First, my argumentation is we actually solve this because we increase relations with Venezuela because we stop oppressing their people. That's probably a good reason to prefer us on this argumentation because at the point where we're not like trying to overthrow their government, their president's probably going to like us a little bit more and not want to sell uranium to Iran because we don't want them to sell it either. At that point, we actually probably solve for this. We probably solve for this disadvantage. The next argumentation is he says like increased Iran involvement allows them to access uranium. They can't at the point where Venezuela likes the U.S. and they won't trade with Iran because we ended this horrible operation that's oppressing their people and causing massive starvation. Yeah, also at the point where like the status quo where he says it's gonna happen inevitable, all there is time frame. You shouldn't look at that because like if it's gonna happen anyways, sure, whatever. Like just because I increased it isn't a reason to vote me down. If it's gonna happen anyways, there's no reason not to vote for us. My next argumentation is non-unique on the Iran nuke. Non-unique on the Iran nuke causes runaway proliferation in nuclear war because like at the point where Donald Trump is cross my last thing where Donald Trump is like actually okay with using nuclear war. You could interview where you literally ask why the hell aren't we using why aren't we using nukes more 3 times? This is basically like the United States is gonna do the same thing. Did I miss anything? He says any use of nuclear bombs causes extinction. Cool, cross that what I said about Donald Trump. Second, I'm not gonna onto the case. First, onto the and for my first argumentation is we shouldn't be looking at words first. We should be looking at our justice system to denormalize sexual violence. At the point where our justice system is clogged up, and you have people who have been victims of sexual violence not getting their justice, there's no way we can actually solve for it until we solve for the justice system first. We need to use these words to express it to show. We need to be able to have freedom to use these words to express these angers, so we show injustices in the world, no matter where we are, for any instances. At that point, this should be At that point, yeah, that doesn't matter. Second, intersectionality with sexual violence. At the point where he actually interrupted me in my cross-sex. This is another thing of sexual violence. Where he links into this as well. Next he says executive orders increase presidential power. This entire thing with to the Donald Trump tyranny thing. Donald Trump literally doesn't care. He even said I could shoot someone and not lose any voters. He obviously doesn't care. Second, at the point where we have a Republican-controlled Congress, he can basically do whatever he wants anyways. And also on the bad foreign policy, Trump president caused bad foreign policy. My third argumentation is executive orders with Obama are actually good, because with Trump coming president, people will look to Obama more to try and prevent Trump from doing all of these bad things. One of these examples is probably trying to overthrow more governments. He says this would ruin U.S. image and world leadership crossed by Trump. Trump ruins it. Second is actually doesn't ruin it. It actually increases it, because it shows the United States is taking a step away from these imperialistic actions. They try and increase their imperialistic actions, but they literally try and corrupt these governments. So on to the solvency. First, you can actually pull across the solvency at the point where the Congress would that. You can pull across the solvency at the point where it still happens. He said the Congress in question can overturn or eliminate executive orders. That's not going to happen because Trump's going to be worried with other things like this wall. My second argumentation is because we have the solvency, because we're ending. If there's any risk of solvency, look, ending this operation is the only way Venezuela will ever get out of this oppression. With this operation still there, Venezuela will continue being in a systematic oppression. This is the system that is oppressing Venezuela. At that point, when we end this, we stop oppressing them. That's probably pretty good. You can look at my solvency cards. Second, he says that because we don't have Venezuela in my solvency cards, I can't actually it's not solving for Venezuela. It's saying about how government being overthrown with governments is really bad. My penalty is saying that we're trying to overthrow the government in Venezuela. That's the point in that. We still have solvency. He says the countries were
I'm gonna take my two. I have it 220 something. Take that, bro. On your fairness and agitation argument, is that a D rule?
It's turned.
I'm asking you, are you framing it as a decision rule?
I turned it. Take it as you will.
Sent you the one in R for round 3. The order's going to be T, case, disadd.
Okay.
Everybody ready?
First one,
T, you can extend across the T, mean I'm not going to go for the T, but I'll go ahead and answer the turn 1 is false. You just need to make this critique relevant to policy action, better for education, 191. Enormous relevance, even after violence, be clear, should be guided by real problems, development, given approach, be appearing at the beginning, nonsense, and the new approach, being immediately applicable, if scholarship, be willing to real world issues, be presented into integrated self-indulgent intellectual insecurity, cities, been more real impact in the areas of social science, got the card there, and their version of critiques education, devastating, creates outcomes where teams can learn the topics, version, forces, the learn back criticism, policy, nexus, my education argument outweighs all the critical nonsense, lectures, future policymakers and rules, procedure to prevent human extinction concern becomes part of all to this chain world order, Burris 3, the truth is often disturbing, victories against terrorism, rogue states are limited, watching balance hostility, we discover that anarchy is loosed upon the world, last conviction, particularly things will be better perceived with the data affairs continue, however, the worst will never happen, and on the fairness argument, extend our fairness, claiming the applicants up to thin fairness, again, defendant action is one non-falsifiable, they can run affirmatives have no proof, we cannot run arguments against them, be unpredictable, they can run something never heard of the resolution 6 in the scope of predetermined status for debate, and backed by shy, we see totalizing the after say rape is bad, and we have no arguments against it, D is personal claims, they can tell a story, recount a dream, or any of the things that happen to them cannot be read to them, choose terms, the app, backed by shy, be fair, limits and rules, the only thing allowed for the affirmative criticism, negative prior question to affirmative claim, shy, 2000, ambiguous, say no, they must reject limits, whether these actually say that something, particularly say yes, the idea of persuasion, they must recognize the world agreeing in the political context, basic order, necessity, score, they mistake the ambiguous, make here is the thing, an agreement comes under context, consensus, skills, debate, get the card there. Look, on the underview of this analysis, like if he tries to go for some sort of critical turn to T, he's just losing this sheet. Don't vote for him on that. But let's go to case. First argument on cases he makes his analysis about that we shouldn't be looking to words first, we need to look at the justice system. However, my analysis is that words are the base of laws, and we literally talk about the foundational discussion of these words in child development, the way that individuals, before they even are sexually aware, create this connection between sex and violence. That is what establishes this societal mindset that turns into our justice system, means that words are the root cause of this. When he engages in that sort of discussion, that he should be voted down. But the next argument, he says that we need to be using these words to be able to engage in and highlight on this. However, this argument is just counterproductive. You're literally saying that we should shoot ourselves to say that shooting people is bad. This is just a counterintuitive argument to say that we need to engage in the same form of abusive behavior to try to prove that abusive behavior is bad. Just leads to masking of the abusive behavior in the first place and further rectifies it. He tries to make this argument that because I interrupted him crossing this form of sexual violence. However, there's a difference between sexual violence and discursive violence, and I would even say that bad manners isn't discursive violence. Sorry, we were both kind of interrupting each other. Probably means that that's going to be a wash, and that's not really a good argument. It seems kind of just thrown out there. However, let's go to the case proper. He doesn't answer certain arguments, he doesn't answer the one that executive orders probably don't solve, because you can't even he articulates a perception link and cross-sex, and that's how that it creates a spotlight. And he says that he can't even name them, means that you're probably not going to be able to vote on this. But the next argument is going to be under here that he doesn't do good enough job answering that one. That the end of the analysis comes over that the card doesn't mention. Let's go. He doesn't actually access the perception link. That's going to be a no solvency that you can flow across. However, on all these executive order arguments, one, I would say that he only supercharges my argument. The affirmative becomes an internal link to Donald Trump tyranny, because Donald Trump is already wanting to use executive orders to do things like build the wall, and he sees Obama as an example, saying that if a liberal can do it, then he can backlash as a conservative and do it. Means that every more executive order becomes another reason for Donald Trump to further regain tyrannic power. Means that he's literally the affirmative passing the affirmative is the internal link to Donald Trump being tyrannical. Is probably going to beat back on all his evidence. However, he spends all this time up here, but the problem is he never answers the advantage arguments. Means that you're going to be able to flow across America's quarterly, that it's not unique and no link, that we're not actually that imperialist, that the countries want us. Means I don't even have to win the dissad, because the U.S. is not militaristic, and evil we go because Latin America's asked. And the next argument is he doesn't answer my economist arguments to say the countries who have intervened the most love the U.S. and this disproves the imperial impacts. He also drops my internal link take out that even if they win the argument, they have to prove, and they don't solve all of it. Means they're never going to be able to solve for all of imperialism. But the most damning and the most important one is he concedes the KEC 14 evidence that literally says that the U.S. leadership is uniquely solving emerging threats, and it solves all of their imperialism off its. He concedes the straight turn to this. Means that you can vote for the neg on advantage one. It doesn't matter, because fundamentally we're going to see here that this is going to prove the solvency. It's going to prove the disadvantage correct, because if hedge is fundamentally the best thing to do with all these, means we need to increase our presence in Venezuela to check against Iran. But the next argument is, Kevin, I know you may not necessarily like these hedge trends, but you really need to vote on, because it just goes cold conceded on the floor. It doesn't matter if he solves, if he doesn't actually have any impacts, and he doesn't have anything on advantage one. Means there's no reason to vote. Even if he solves, he doesn't garner any sort of articulated impacts. Don't do work for him. Don't let him get up here and protect the next speech. But the next argument is, let's go to the dissad proper. There's going to be a couple arguments. One, he would say that the Trump's not going to care that he's getting the Iran deal. My analysis is even with or without the Iran deal, Venezuela is still going to be enough uranium to give it to him. Ricardo literally says, what happens if Iran magically gets more sources of uranium, and they're going to be able to build a nuclear bomb? Means you can extend across that. He says turn to solves that in relations, but I say turn to the analysis is going to be off of the hedge good dissad. Means that we need to check against this. But the next argument is Venezuela Venezuela doesn't hate us because we overthrow governments, but that's even debatable, but it's because of our capitalist economic system means that they're going to be looking to do Iran, means the only thing we can do is check them. He doesn't do enough answer. He doesn't read a single part on this sheet of paper. Kevin, this is evidentiary-based debate, so you need to be giving me a head start even if you evaluate his arguments, extend across all my evidence on the dissent. He says that increased Iran involvement won't work where they won't trade with Iran. However, my analysis indicates that Venezuela particularly well because they trade them for additional trade and military resources that the U.S. would no longer provide. He says that it's not unique on Iran nuke anyway because it causes Donald Trump causes prolif. However, the only thing that causes Donald Trump prolif is the affirmative, which is probably going to strengthen the internal link to the nuclear prolif and everything. He says cross-apply the analogy and nuclear analysis to Trump. However, my analysis is uniquely that the nuclear capabilities are uniquely tied to Iranian national identity, which gives them a special incentive to be able to use it. Means that Iran is the biggest internal link to nuclear war. Means only I access it, but even in the world in which he concedes hedge is good, that's going to be enough to straight turn back any of his analysis on the dissent when he concedes that on the advantage flow means that you're always going to be voting on the dissent and the case turn.
I think I have like a minute left to prep. I think. I'm gonna regret asking this. Did you make the top tally loading issue?
Did I?
Yeah.
I don't know, did I?
I don't know my flaw.
Have fun.
Alright. So 3 minutes. So I'm gonna start on the words create reality stuff, and then I'm gonna go down to the, because I have really stupid flow. Because so I'm gonna start with words create reality. I'm just gonna go down from there, and then I'm gonna go top case, and then I'm gonna go straight to the disadvantage. So starting with this word create the reality, I mean, pull across the fact that if you can't fix the justice system, you can't fix it at all. Because at the point where the justice system is the problem, then you can't fix this with just words. You have to fix this at the institutional level. Second, he said that shooting, to shoot yourself to say shooting is bad. My first argument on this is actually not technically turned, but having experienced it makes it a lot better. My first argument on this is you can look at Kesha, how she actually experienced rape culture, and at that point she actually became a beacon for defending women's rights and for defending against rape culture and all that stuff. So actually, yes, that's actually pretty good when you have experienced it. At that point, we still need to fix the judicial system first, otherwise we can't actually fix this. Next one, he says the executive orders don't solve. These are the executive orders don't solve. You can never actually talk about my part that where Trump's going to be too busy with things, building a wall. You can pull out articulation across. The executive order will still stand. My next one is he says we supercharge Trump using executive orders. At the point where he dropped, where the articulation is still there, where he's not going to end a plan because he is because he's too busy with other things, then it's gonna outweigh. I'll get to that on the disadvantage. First, he says you can pull across the on. Shortly on the advantage, you can grant him all that, and I'll still go to the disadvantage. I'll explain why that outweighs. Onto the next argument, he says that Venezuela will give Iran uranium. My first recommendation on this is he dropped the this is SQO right now. That's the problem with SQO. He says the reason they don't like us is because our capitalist economy argumentation on this is actually both. If at the point where we're actually decreasing or increasing the relation to any bit, this is what's going to stop the Iran. This is what's going to stop Venezuela from selling Iran nuclear weapons because they actually are okay with the United States post plan. Okay, you can pull out and take this through. He says this is evidence-based debate. He didn't have a card for that. Sure, why not? So it's at the point. Also, analytics are good at the point where analytics are actually necessary for policy-based actions to go through to increase critical thinking. You should look at analytics and you should weigh them just as much as evidence-based arguments because they're necessary for evidence-based debate. So basically, he says basically what's going to happen here is the plan is the only way to solve for Iran nuclear is the only way to solve for Iran getting nuclear weapons. At the point where in the status quo, it is inevitable for Iran to get nuclear weapons, and this one conceded in his speech, you can look to the fact that the only chance of solving is with the plan in increasing relationships with Venezuela. The U.S. head doesn't matter on a global scale as long as you're increasing relations with this one country. You can look to his own articulation as how this is the biggest impact on the round, and that you should weigh extinction before. That was you, right? And then you should look at extinction before everything else. You can pull across you can look at all of his impacts cards in the fact that this is the biggest impact around. We need to prevent this at all costs. The fact that decreasing U.S. head just a little bit, that's going to happen anyways because of Donald Trump becoming president. The fact that this is the most important thing in the round is stopping this nuclear deal. You can pull across things like any use of nuclear bombs causes extinction. At that point, we need to stop Iran getting nuclear deals at all costs. Actually.